Welcome to the Week 6 wrap-up here at the 17th season of Blood, Sweat, and Beers. So here we are about halfway through the season. After Week 6 on a 13-week season, we're right about halfway. Team identities are really starting to take shape. And so as you look at yours, what's your thought? What's your reaction? Is it time to panic? Well, I guess if you're Hoffman, if he was paying attention, he'd probably be panicking. But as we go through some of the scores, we're going to see that it might be time for maybe a little bit of an overhaul, right? So we haven't had a single trade yet this year. Is now the time to start trying to pull out all the stops and salvage the second half of your season? Or do you slow play it and just pick up off the waiver wire, hope a guy gets hot down the stretch, and see if you can make the playoffs and make a little noise there? Curious what your approach is. Obviously, if you're the reigning champ, you just stick with the status quo. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. So let's go to the scores. Kamish versus Don Chris. Seemed like it was really starting off Washington versus Green Bay. 3 of each on each team. And if it had just been that, well, Don Chris would have done very, very well, primarily because of Josh Jacobs. But it wasn't. There was this little guy, Bijan Robinson, that had something to say about that. Actually, even without Bijan's 40 points, which was wonderful timing, that was still a pretty decent score. You look at what was possible. Kamish could have finally broken 150. Still hasn't yet. So comfortable at 4-2. Not comfortable at that lower half of points scored so far for the season. Now, if you look at the potential for Don Chris, a perfect roster could have given him the win, but we all know how infrequent that is. It does happen. It has happened this year, but very, very infrequent. So, unfortunately, Don Chris slides, and we'll see how the standings look from that. But if we look at our next score, this was a much more interesting game. So we go to the highest score of the week. Again, goes to our champ at 180 points. And unfortunately, Keith gets the third highest score, but plays only one of the 2 guys that could have beaten him. So, that's one of those frustrating things as you look back. What could have, would have, should have been. Talk to Pancho about that. He knows very well what it means to score a lot of points and have people score a lot more against you each time. But as we look at the possibilities here, so even the champ left a few points on the bench, although he was in the 90s for what he did run. Actually, Keith could have come out on top on this one. He had enough points going on, especially on the bench. Dallas Goedert, that was a big one, right? That would have been almost all of it. In fact, actually, that would have been the win. He starts Goddard instead of Hunter Henry. He would have taken that one with the high score on the week, but he didn't. Instead, we now have our champ on a 5-game win streak, averaging 170 points a game over those 5, increasing his score every week. Think about that for a minute. Over the past 5 weeks, his score has gone up each week. Now, clearly that can't be sustainable, right? I mean, I would have said last week it's not sustainable. I would have said 2 weeks ago it's not sustainable. Will he get a 6th consecutive increase in points? Will he break 181 this coming week? Well, that's kind of an interesting one to check out, but he certainly seems like he is headed for a de facto second championship. We'll see if that's manageable, sustainable. Smith and Jigba, I don't know how long that's going to last. He's been going bonkers. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, we know his talent, but when CeeDee Lamb comes back, George Pickens' numbers should drop a little bit. So we'll see if he can manage that or maintain that, but likely not. But for now, It's an impressive 5-game streak. Our next game, well, this was kind of the dud. No, this was the second to the worst dud. Unfortunately, we've got our last place team, Hoffman. Blink if you need help. Just struggling mightily. I thought I was bad at roster management. So we look at what was possible. This is the lowest pop we've seen since I think the AFL-NFL merger, or at least since we started keeping track last year. 49%. He left more points on the bench than he had in his starting lineup, which has happened in the past. What's also interesting is that his bench scored more points than Ian did. Ian's starting lineup. Hoffman's bench outscored his opponent's starting lineup. That's got to be a little frustrating there. But, this was just first of one of the sub 100 point games we had this week. I mean, honestly, if he had just not left Quentin Johnson in there, put Drake London in, or Rico Dowdle in the flex, I mean, there was a ton of points left. Could have stopped his losing streak, but unfortunately didn't. And Ian was the beneficiary of that. So good job. Even though he didn't have a whole lot of points on his bench there, he gets the win for that. Let's take a look at our next score. We've got read option and poor John. I feel like he has become the whipping boy of the league. How many times has he scored in the top 2-3 of the league and somehow still ends up with a losing record? He's the Colt McCoy, right? The ragdoll that he always makes fun of. He has become, unfortunately. But for Alex Billy, his running back duo, fantastic. A-Chain and Swift, stupid Swift, did amazing things for him. And in fact, he was almost perfect. We look at what was possible. He came so close. One player off would have given him that perfect roster. And frankly, John left quite a few points on the bench too. If he had gotten himself a perfect roster, he could have taken that game. It would have taken everything, right? And so he said something that he wouldn't have done. Well, Trayvon Henderson and Kimini, I don't know how to say that guy's name, Vidal for the Chargers. I mean, that had to have been a toss-up, right? I mean, a coin flip? It would have taken more than that, but the points were on the bench. So, unfortunately, Pancho now leads the league in points scored against him, something he can do nothing about other than complain. So that's where he is. He drops another one. Let's take a look at our last game. This one was the dud. This was the worst game of the weekend for sure. We get our second score under 100. We didn't have any through 5 weeks, and now we have 2. So, I don't know what to say. You look at what was possible. Neither one of them did very well. The game could have gone either way. I don't know what to say about Seth. A couple weeks ago, he was talking about running the table. And over the past 2 weeks, he's now averaged 108 points a game. Now, unless you're playing Hoffman, that's not going to get you anywhere. And so, had he started Drake May for Josh Allen, I know that seems crazy, but maybe not the way the year's going. He might have been able to pull that one out, but I don't know. Chiefs get Rice back this week, which means Seth gets Rice back this week. Maybe he'll get back on track and start scoring 150s, 160s like he was in the past. Interestingly, though, for Joe, he scored about half of what he did last week. So that is a cliff that he fell off of. We'll see. Is that something that is he reverting back to what he's going to be the second half of the season, or is that something that just one of those outliers? Everybody had a bad week on the same week. I don't know. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead and look now at what do we look at? we're going to look at our standings. So if we take a look at where everybody sits on the standings, bunched up a little bit more at the top in the West, although you got your champ sitting there all by himself at 5-1 with that 5-game win streak. Couple just under that. Alex, Billy, just want to point out that you have less of a chance to make the playoffs in the commish. Just wanted to point that out. You look over to the East, and obviously everybody's kind of stuck around in the 2 and 4. So it's still early on. Anything can happen over the next 7 weeks. We'll have to see how that goes. But looking at the stats, no real surprise that our number 1 team is also our number 1 scoring team. Very nearly gets himself to 1,000. Also, the first one and the only one in the 900-point range. So no question there really why he's sitting at number 1. And we see number 2 just by being in the other division, even though he hasn't broken 800 yet. But, as you look down there towards the bottom of the list, again, you got to score some points to get anywhere. Let's take a look and see how the power rankings have changed over the past couple of weeks. Pet Detectives, despite only sneaking past 100 points, bumps himself up to the number 2 projection. And Whiskey Business, that was another interesting one. Despite the loss, has himself up at number 3. I guess Watson still thinks he's got plenty capable. That is just some bad roster management, and they give you a couple weeks to work that out. So this is how the power rankings shape up now. Let's take a look at the pops for the week. We have a new number 1. Your champ moves up, knocks Joe down just a peg. So we've got he's our triple crown at the moment. Our reigning champ has the best record, has the most points scored, and now has the best roster management out there through 6 weeks. So leave something for the rest of us, man. You don't have to do it all. So do we feel like this is Aaron's density this year to just go to the championship, to just take it for a second straight year? Or do we think that maybe he's just fallen into some soft games for the players that he's put on his team? I don't know. 5 straight weeks, it can be a little nerve-wracking there. But also want to point out that your commish has gotten himself up into the middle of the pop rankings. Actually dropped a little bit from last week, but so did Poncho. In fact, he dropped so much that he bumped your commish up. So, yay. As we look ahead to this next week, again, we're early enough on, right around the middle, that anything's possible. So enjoy week 7.